Hi, I'm Michael from Michael the Gathering, and this is how to build mono black aggro. This particular build comes at a request, but nobody had to twist my arm to do one of the most proactive and interactive decks in really any format. And I do mean proactive in the interactive sense, because whilst mono red and Boros tokens do go fast and end the game very quickly, they don't do a lot of actually worrying about what the opponent is doing with their game plan while they're being aggressive. Mono black, however, is intimately interested in what the opponent has to bring to the table so that they can expertly answer it and then end the game with incredible efficiency. The starting point for mono black aggro is a fairly simple thing, a statement that in the past would have been inconceivable. Liliana of the Veil is playable in Standard because she wins the game by herself in a myriad of ways. She makes opponents sacrifice their creatures, she hand locks them out of the game forever, or she just domain expansions and says you get to keep either your lands or the rest of your permanents. And the spirit of Liliana is really what we're trying to channel here with mono black aggro. This is an aggro deck in that it wants to curve out and play just the best thing that it possibly can every turn, usually at sorcery speed. It doesn't have that aggro drawback of, if we've gotten to turn 4 and the game isn't over, I guess I'll just scoop up my cards and concede. No, in fact, getting to turn 4 is usually the goal for mono black aggro, because this is a deck that runs a full complement of 24, sometimes even 26 lands, and it's aiming to drop bombs. Bloodletter of Aclazotz, Archfiend of the Dross, Aclazotz himself at 5 mana. These are cards that you're getting to aggressively and quickly, but then will end the game in a few turns, rather than say, right now or never. Now, the best way to get to the mono black bombs is to have a solid foundation in the rest of the deck. As I said before, we're not cutting any lands here. We're keeping a full complement of 24 to 26 lands, depending on your play style and curve. And we're going to fill the deck with cards that proactively go onto the board, but then have the goal of striking a balance between threatening the opponent and keeping ourselves alive. Since we've covered the top end bombs and the land count of the deck, it makes sense to continue jumping around the curve and hit 3 drops. Because mono black has some of the best 3 drops in just all of Magic. For some reason, it just seems to be one of black's identifiable characteristics is they get really good rare 3 drops. And yes, I'm sorry, but this is an aggro deck that's gonna cost wild cards. You probably weren't surprised when the bombs were rares in Mythics. These middle of the deck 3 drops are gonna burn up wild cards as well. Now, in any good stuff deck, there's going to be a couple of cards that stand out from the rest. In current mono black standard, the 2 absolute best picks for 3 drops are Phyrexian Fleshgorger and Preacher of the Schism. Primarily because they both excel at keeping you alive against every deck that goes low, and they generate value against decks that are going long. In previous metas, we've seen cards like Graveyard Trespasser and Urborg Scavengers really just make playing Reanimator a not okay thing to do in the meta. But nowadays, people understand and are afraid of that. I mean, we even have Lord Skidder, just ancillary graveyard hate in the main deck. So now the primary thing to be worried about is not dying to aggro. And a 3-3 with lifelink and ward is definitely going to get you there, if a 2-4 with Death Touch that spits out lifelink tokens doesn't. And speaking of jumping around in the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I release a short every day covering every single rare and mythic from new standard sets as they come out, and I'm continuing to develop how to build thanks to you and everybody else in the comments. The one remaining section of the deck that we have to cover is the bottom end, the 1s and 2s. For me, it's a simple matter of Evolved Sleeper, Cut Down, and Bitter Triumph. Depending on who you ask, they're going to say go for the throat. And I'm going to stake what limited reputation I have on this. Go for the Throat is a dead card and shouldn't be played anymore. First of all, in the mirror match, it can't deal with Phyrexian Fleshgorger. What are you doing? But secondly, Bitter Triumph, whilst costing life or a card, which, again, we're an aggressive deck, it shouldn't really matter that you're paying life. But Bitter Triumph targets Planeswalkers, and I cannot overemphasize how incredibly good it feels to just 2 mana kill a Wandering Emperor or a Jace or a 5 mana Teferi that people are playing because they think they can protect it. If you're not familiar with Evolved Sleeper, it definitely seems like a weird card for an aggressive deck. I mean, a 1 mana 1/1, 2 mana 2/2, 4 mana 3/3, what is this doing here? But all of its activations being so cheap make Phyrexian of Destiny just an absolutely incredible card for smoothing out every possible play you could ever want, even if you're playing it as a 1 mana 1/1 and you're not upgrading it until turn 4. The last two cards I'm going to mention here are a combo of cards that don't get talked about together as much as they should have. Deep-Cavern Bat and Geek's Yawgmoth Praetor. Now, Deep-Cavern Bat is a simple, fairly obvious inclusion in a black, aggro, tempo-y sort of deck. I mean, it's Thoughtseize on a stick. Sure, the card goes back eventually. The level of disruption that you get from this card is incredible just on its face. What really makes Deep-Cavern Bat an oppressive card is the fact that you can play it turn 2 and then on turn 3 play Gix and then get over with your 1/1 flyer to draw a card for free. Sometimes your opponents will demonstrate that they are in fact human beings and will have counterplay for your Deep-Cavern Bats, making them a bad investment. It's important to use a card like Gix to push that extra value as soon as you get the chance. At its core, mono black aggro isn't about speed, it's about aggression. It's about staying on track and doing something every turn, knowing that you're going to kill your opponent if they ever let up the gas, even for a second. It's about kicking your opponent's feet out with a cheap piece of single target removal at exactly the moment that they were going to just key everything together and run you over, and then untapping and dropping a huge bomb to swing things in your favor. If you have a favorite huge bomb, mine is Bloodletter of Aclazotz, or you have a particular pet build of mono black, be sure to leave it in a comment down below. And if you have a deck that you want to cut to the front of the line of how to build, make sure to shout it down there too. I remembered to record an outro this time, so g'day and good laddering.